If I were to guess, if I were a bet man, I'd say the test would be like Tuesday next week or Wednesday next week. Okay? Just gonna give me a heads up. You guys have your books today?
No.
Yeah, you should go get your books.
Wait, I've done mine.
Good job.
Yes. No, I don't.
I'm gonna look at a couple things in the book. What did you say? What was it?
2 hours ago, last hour. Then I left it.
Okay, we're going to talk about gears and pulleys today.
Probably not my help. Right now, the homework.
So why do you think it says it's a modified form of a wheel and an axle? Okay, so how are they similar? How are they different? Both rotate, okay, that's one way they're similar. And we said that's an advantage over what? What is the rotating 360 degrees an advantage over? A lever. Because we said a lever has a disadvantage in that it does not rotate 360 degrees, it always hits some sort of obstruction, object. Okay, so how else are wheels and gears similar? They both rotate. That's the extent of their similarities. Ethan? Well, no, that's actually how they'd be a little different because wheels, you could have just one wheel. You know, a lot of times, like with a car or something, you have a wheel or two wheels connected to one shaft, but like you cannot have a gear without another gear connected to it, and it work like a gear. Alright, what's the main difference? Any ideas? They what?
They work in pairs.
Okay, they work in pairs.
There's teeth.
There's teeth. Okay, so I want you guys to open your book, show you a picture of. You guys have seen the gear before, right? No? Never seen the gear? Pull up your books.
Oh, sure.
Number 4. I always question how that whole pair.
Gears are inside.
There's 4 spike in those.
We're all bad.
Alright, page 141. 141. Okay? There at the bottom right hand corner you have an example of the gear. Do you see the T?
Yes.
Okay, do you see why they work in pairs?
Yes.
One gear is going to be connected to another gear. Even like an example of your bike, they still work in pairs because one gear is linked to the other gear just with the use of a what? A chain, right? It's still going to be a gear. One turn, when one turns, the other turns. Okay? Now, I think we covered that. I want to talk a little bit here about the IMA, or the mechanical advantage of gears, because it is a little bit tricky to figure out the mechanical advantage. That's kind of creepy to write. Put that in as a specific IMA equation for gears. R teeth over E teeth. What do you think I'm referring to? Resistance teeth, effort teeth. And we'll talk about counting teeth. I think you guys can probably figure that out. But good. So the IMA of a pair of gears can be determined by the ratio of the teeth of the resistance over the teeth of the effort. Yeah, here's where it's a little goofy. Actually, let me have you finish writing and I'll tell you kind of the goofy part of this. You guys got it? Alright, I want, based on how we said the IMA works, actually before we figure out the IMA, look at the two gears there. It tells you which one's the resistance gear and which one's the effort gear. Does everybody see it? Well, not Cassie, you didn't have your book open. Not Mari, where's your book? Not open. Get your book open, page 141. Please. Okay. Looking at that, those two arms, you see the resistance arm and the effort arm? Everybody see it there? What would you think this would give you an advantage or a disadvantage? Okay. Disadvantage. Why? Okay, so it looks like the effort arm is smaller, which you would think the effort force would be what then? The effort arm is small, the effort force is great. Right? They're opposites. Increase the distance to decrease the force. Okay? So if the effort arm is small, the effort force is probably large. Now, let's try to figure out the IMA using the teeth. Okay? So somebody count the resistance teeth. You already counted them. How many are there? 20 teeth? And can somebody count the, you already counted those two, huh?
Yeah.
How many?
13.
13? Can somebody calculate in the calculator quickly what the IMA of that would be? 21, 20, close enough.
1.5.
About 1.5?
Yeah.
Okay? That tells us that we have an advantage, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, something's wrong. Okay? So that is right, and I'm going to tell you why looking at the arms doesn't tell you the whole picture. Let me ask you, if you were to turn that effort arm and start rotating it, which one would rotate more? The effort would. So wouldn't the effort actually do more distance? Ah, so there's the key. The effort arm and resistance arm are not what you look at for gears. Because the smaller gear will always rotate faster and cover more distance. The bigger gear will rotate slower because it's got to go through more teeth to get through a full cycle. Does that make sense? Smaller gear will always rotate faster. So when we're looking at IMA for gears, we have to look at the teeth, or you can just look at, you can know if you had an advantage based on the size of the gear. But if you want to know the actual advantage, then you'd have to count the teeth. Make sure you count them right. 20 versus 21. I don't know what it is. Okay? If you flip the page, I think it might be the same. Yeah, it is 21. You counted wrong. Next page, 142. Everybody see it? It says there's 13 and 21.
Yeah.
It's a pain. So if you look at that, it tells you that for the gear ratio above, you've got a 0.62. Does that mean you have an advantage or a disadvantage? Disadvantage. And notice which gear is smaller. The resistance gear. So the resistance gear would travel more, making the force be greater for the effort. Okay? So subtle difference. When you're trying to find the IMA of a gear, you have to think, how much distance is it going to rotate? Smaller gears rotate faster. Bigger gears are much slower in their rotating. Okay? So don't just look at the effort arm and resistance arm. That's a tricky one. Think teeth or think size of the gears. Okay? Whoopsies. Pulleys. I defined this. Give you the notes. Keep your books open. We're already going to look back at this. Yeah, I've already kind of given you a definition of a pulley. It's just a wheel and an axle with a what in it? A groove. What do you think the groove's purpose is? Put the rope in it, or whatever it is that you're going to rotate on that pulley. Got like a bazillion pulleys hanging up in this room. There's one right there. Right there. And there's quite a few more pulleys in this room. But let's talk about how to figure out the advantage. Keep writing, I know. Really have it all down. This beforehand. I got one right back here. Why that? These are sharp. Okay.
These ones are child safe.
I probably should use the child safe ones. Alright, so it says a single pulley must be fastened to something to function. A pulley mounted on a fixed support is called a single fixed pulley. So you're going to see two different things. You're going to see a single fixed pulley and a single movable pulley. I'm going to show you a single movable pulley. Up here would be a single what? It's fixed. Okay. Now I want to notice what that last bullet says. It says this type of pulley doesn't what? Reduce the effort. Okay. Let me show you. Remember, there's a distance principle. What's the distance principle? Alright, sorry, everybody at once. One person, since there were still some of us that still struggle on that on the quiz. One person, raise your hand. Go ahead, Stevie.
The longer the distance, the less the force.
Okay. Now, if I were to pull this down, let's say, a foot, how much does it go up? A foot. So, the effort distance and the resistance distance are what? Identical. So what is the IMA? 1. No advantage. Okay? However, you're probably thinking, well, why would we ever use a single fixed pulley if it doesn't give us an advantage? Well, it can give us an advantage in this. It can allow us to use our weight to help us apply a force. For example, if I want to lift something up, I can use my weight to help pull down. Does that make sense? Versus if I were just lifting up, I'm just using all of my strength. Does that make sense? So it definitely doesn't make the amount of force we have to put in change, but it allows us to use our weight, it allows us to change the direction that we're headed. Okay? So a single fixed pulley, does it give you an advantage? No, because the distance you put in is the distance you get out. A single movable pulley, I think is next. Yep. Go ahead and put this in, and I'll show you a movable pulley. Do it right. said a single fixed pulley. Does it give you an advantage? A single fixed pulley? No. A single movable pulley gives you an advantage of 2. And I'll explain here in a sec how you would determine this and how you would know that it gives you an advantage of 2. What does a mechanical advantage of 2 tell you? 2 times easier, so half the force. Okay? Now, that last bullet says, generally, the ideal mechanical advantage of a pulley system equals the numbers of ropes supporting the load. How many ropes are supporting the load? Don't say 1. 2. It's one long rope, but how many sections of ropes are going up? 2. That makes sense. I'm sorry, that was probably a question I didn't. Yeah, that's one rope. I get it. Okay? But there's 2 portions of the rope going up. So here's how it gives you an advantage. Okay? Technically, I only have to hold half the weight. Why? Because the other part of the rope attached to the ceiling is holding the other half of the weight. You see? So all I have to apply is half the force of the weight of this object to get it to move up. Does that make sense? Because the ceiling technically is holding the other half. Do you see how a single movable pulley will allow us to have an advantage of 2? Okay? Now keep this in mind because we can get crazy pulleys, which are called block and tackle. That's what they're called. I was getting like fishing stuff and stuff. Do you guys remember that pulley that was in Mr. Finch's room? Does anybody remember how many like pulleys there were? There's a lot. There was like a lot of ropes that were going around and around and around. Okay? That had a lot of advantage. That's why you could lift a human being pretty easily. Now we did talk about you had to do a lot of what? To get the object to go up. You had to, the work is the same, right? Does the simple machine change the work?
No.
How much pulling did you have to do?
A lot.
You need to pull a ton of distance. Why does that make sense? Because an increase in distance decreases the force. Okay, so I'm going to show you how you figure out the advantage of those guys. They're called pulley gangs. Oops. This is our last slide. We'll be done. So if you want, you can come up and
Pull it all the way to the top and then like it this one. Yeah.
Nice.
So satisfying. A yo-yo, it's my own yo-yo. Whoever thought you could use a simple machine like a pulley for so much entertainment? What did you say?
You have to be really fortunate at the penis.
No. You just have to be real simple and not be not have to be entertained by trivial things. Ah! Get him off! I probably should have.
People in the gondola car.
Alright, you guys got your books open. 143 is where we're going to look at a block and tackle pulley system. Now, the pulley system that Mr. Fincham had in his room actually had way more pulleys than even this does. Okay? But if you're on 143, you should be able to see on the bottom right, you have basically 4 pulleys. You see it? Okay? Now, how did we say we determined the IMA a second ago on the slide? We'll end with this. How did we say? Number of ropes up, right? So if you look at this block and tackle, how many ropes appear to be moving up or would move up? 4. Do I need to draw it? Like that, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Does everybody see it? So if I had 6 pulleys, you probably have 6 ropes. Okay? Gears, just quickly before we leave. Gears, remember, are you looking at the effort arm and the resistance arm to find the IMA of a gear? What are you looking at? T. Okay? And when you're trying to find the IMA of a pulley system, what are you looking at? Number of ropes. Alright, let me leave.
Oh my goodness, my hip is so messed up. What did I do?
Your hip is so messed up.
Yeah, I did it last night while I practiced.
Ooh.